fam, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about something that I have seen a lot of people mentioning in my Smart 20s community Facebook group, and that's hating their job. But not only that, they hate their job and they don't know what else to do instead. So I'm going to do another video about what else to do instead because that is a whole other topic. But today I just want to give some realistic and practical advice, and because I want this video to be as helpful as possible, I'm not going to tell you to quit your job and get another job. I know that a lot of you aren't in a position because of your financial responsibilities to actually just quit because you don't like it. And actually, if you were in a position to quit, I don't actually know that I would give you the advice to quit your job. Depends on the situation, obviously, but I think there is a lot that we can actually learn from jobs that we hate. And so I want to give you some tips about that sort of thing, and I really, really hope that it helps. I would never say that I have been in a job that I absolutely hated, but at the same time, I'm not the kind of person that ever says like, I hate my job or I hate people or whatever. Like, that's just not really my vibe. I've always said that if I'm in a job with good people, then I love that job. And I've been in a lot of jobs, like the actual technical side of the job I haven't enjoyed, or it's just been really mundane in certain retail jobs and you're just there like watching the clock tick down. But I have always been around really good people, and every workplace, like there's always someone that you're not going to get along with really well. Like that happens in every kind of situation that you're in. And I think even if you're in your dream job, there are going to be people that you don't get along with. It's completely fine. It's part of life. And I think when that situation happens, it's good to, develop skills to deal with that instead of just changing jobs every time you don't get along with someone, because it's going to happen time and time again. And the other reason I've never really hated a job is because I make such a conscious effort to be really grateful for the jobs I have, particularly in the last few years. I did a whole video on what Steve and I do every night, which is say our 3 good things. If you want to see it, I will link it above. But that's one of the times that especially when I was working full-time, I used to say like, I'm grateful that I have a full-time job. I'm grateful that I have friends that I work with. I'm grateful, that I can sit at my desk and listen to music. Like just tiny little things really made such a big difference. So anyway, I'm going to be talking about quite a few things in this video. I hope if you find yourself in a job that you don't love at the moment, that this will help you. So I guess to elaborate on what I just said, my first tip is to be grateful for the job you have. I know if you hate your job, you're probably like, but you don't know how bad my job is. Like there's nothing to be grateful for. There is always something to be grateful for, like the fact that you have a job, which means you have an income, which so many people on this planet do not have. There is something that you can be grateful for. And I know if you're in a position where you hate your job, you probably don't want to hear that and you probably just want to keep hating on it. But it is like your thoughts about your job and your feelings about your job are controlled by you. They're not actually the circumstance. And one really clear way to see this is that, there'll be say 20 people in a workplace and they all have a different opinion about the job, even though they're in the same workplace. And I know you could say like, oh, but they're all having different experiences. Yes, but they're also thinking about the workplace and thinking about their colleagues and their situation in a different way. And I know like in different situations, I've enjoyed my job where people in a very similar situation haven't. And it really comes down to mindset and what you make it. It's so easy to blame the circumstance and to point to certain people and say, well, yeah, I would really like my job if that person didn't work here anymore, if I didn't have to do this task, or if I didn't have so much pressure. But it really comes down to how you think about it. And if you begin to focus on more of the positive parts of your job, even if they're super tiny, then it has such a big impact on your experience. The second thing I want to talk about is complaining. And a complaint is really a comment, a negative comment that you have to say about something that you're not actively doing anything to change. So if you're complaining about the same things day in, day out, and yet not doing anything to try and change that situation, that kind of talk, just like the saying what you're grateful for, has a really positive impact on your experience. Constant complaining has a really negative impact. even though in the moment complaining feels so good. And I'm not saying not to ever vent about your job and not to ever complain, but it can really become such a trap where, like, sometimes with your colleagues, all you have to talk about with them are complaints about your job, and it's so draining. No wonder you hate it. And the other thing is as well that if you are constantly telling yourself you hate your job, it kind of like becomes part of your identity. And we have this thing where we really want to be consistent with the beliefs that we have about ourselves. So if we believe that we hate our job, we really want to actually hate it. And it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy kind of thing. It's like if we believe that we're shit with money, we'll continue to be shit with money. Like, if you're surprised that you're not good with money when you constantly tell people, yeah, I'm just so bad with money, I'm so bad with money, like you're telling yourself a million times that you're bad with money, and we really want to be consistent and we really want to prove ourselves right. So only say things to yourself that you really actually do want to be true. And I know it's not that easy to stop complaining, and I'm not saying I don't ever complain, but I think just being conscious of like comments you're saying and then thinking, oh, is that something I'm actually trying to change, or am I just constantly complaining about it and never doing anything about it? And if it's something you can't change, then maybe it's going to be more beneficial to you to change the way that you relate to that by starting to think about it differently than to actually just keep whining. Another thing I want to say is that being in a job that you hate is actually a really good time to make sure that the rest of your life is looking the way you want, and particularly your habits and the lifestyle that you have. I think often when we're in a job we hate, we tell ourselves like, once I get a better job or once I'm in a situation that I love, then it'll be so easy to, I'll eat healthy, I'll work out every day, I'll wake up early, and just kind of assume that when we're in a new situation we'll be a new person. And as you've probably experienced before, we don't magically change when a situation changes. We're the same person, just in a new location usually. So if you have the habits at the moment of always giving in to your excuses and constantly wanting instant gratification, like wanting to eat what you feel like whenever you feel like it, and not having any willpower or self-control or that kind of thing, then you're not magically going to have willpower when you're in a new job or a new situation. So this is such a great time to really focus on your personal life, and I really recommend, if you're wanting to step up that area of your life, to create a morning routine. I've written quite a lot about morning routines, so I'm going to leave a link below to the blog post that will help you. But I think just something in the morning that is for you can be so, so, so helpful. When I was at my last job, I definitely didn't hate it, but I knew it wasn't where I wanted to be in the future. But that's when I really started blogging before going to work, so that I could do something for me before I did something for my boss. And it just changed the tone of the day, because when I was at work, I was like, well, I've already done the things I want to do today. And it did mean me waking up at 4 a.m. And in hindsight, I really can't believe that I did that, especially not for so many months. But it's really important to put yourself first. And if you're already waking up as early as you possibly can to be able to get to work on time, like you already have a morning routine, you're already eating breakfast at some point, or at least having a coffee, you're getting dressed, you're doing all those things, and you can look at what your current morning routine is, even if you might not think of it as a morning routine because it's not what most people would think of. Like, it might not be healthy, it might not be productive or anything like that, but have a look at what you're currently working with and start to tweak it. Like, start to add in things you like replace things. So, if you're rushing to get a coffee, one thing you could do is be more mindful when you're getting a coffee and just actually enjoy the experience instead of already thinking about your to-do list at work. You can change what you have for breakfast. All of that sort of thing can be changed, even if you're already waking up as early as possible. You don't have to wake up any earlier to be able to improve your morning routine. And as far as habits go, that is definitely the habit that I think can have the biggest and quickest impact on your life. Going on from that, I think if you're in a position where you don't like your current day job, it's a really good opportunity to think about if there are any side projects you've been wanting to work on. I know if you're working full time, it can feel like you literally have time for nothing else, but there are a lot of people like me who are working full time and started a side project. Well, I started mine when I was at uni, and then continued it while I was working full time. And I'm not saying it's easy, and that's why I had to wake up so early. But is there something you've been wanting to do, even just for yourself? Like, it doesn't have to be something that's going to end up making you money, but just something creative, or spending more time with your dogs, or learning a new language. Just something that you want to be working on in your spare time. If you're not getting much satisfaction currently from your job, then I think it's really good to make sure you are at least getting that in other areas of your life at some point. Hopefully with being more grateful and complaining a bit less, the way you relate to your job will start to change. But I think also having something outside of work that you can look forward to can really make such a big difference as well. Also, I have done another video on how I figured out what to do with my life, and I will link that above. But I just wanted to say as well, I think the advice to follow your passion is just bullshit. It's been completely said way too many times. And doesn't mean anything. Like when I hear someone say follow your passion, and I think that's probably why I was so confused for so many years of my early 20s. I was like, well, what the hell is my passion? And I think for me, what helped was just following my curiosity. I am obsessed with personal growth and personal development, self-help, that whole world. Like blogging isn't my passion. I enjoy it. I enjoy writing. Writing, I'm probably quite passionate about, but blogging, I don't nerd out over at all. I just want someone to tell me what to do and I will do it. But when it comes to personal growth, I am obsessed with reading the books and listening to the podcasts. I do it for hours and hours and hours and hours on end in my spare time. And the way I figured out that I loved it was just starting to pay attention to what I was doing in my spare time. And it so happened that when I was getting into that, I also fell into business podcasts, and a lot of them talk about personal growth because being an entrepreneur really brings up all your fear and self-doubt. That introduced me to the whole world of blogging, which is how I ended up choosing to start my own blog, but I kept that a secret for years. It wasn't like I was just sitting at home. I was like, what should I do with my life? Oh my God, I should be a blogger. I'm going to start a blog. And then I started a blog, and then it got really huge. It was such a long journey, and it was never staring me in the face. It just happened really gradually over time. And it actually happened so gradually that it didn't feel like I was getting anywhere ever. And even this year, I've achieved so much, but when I'm living life, it doesn't feel like I'm achieving much because you're in it and you can't really see it until you're looking back. So I hope you found this helpful. I'm just going to quickly go over what I've said, and it's just stuff for you to think about and things that I've thought about when I'm in jobs that, I haven't hated them, but I would rather be somewhere else. So the first one is just to practice being grateful for the really tiny things. I know no one wants to hear that advice, but even just saying at the end of the day to yourself in the mirror when you're brushing your teeth, well, you can't really talk when you're brushing your teeth, but to say to yourself in your head, I'm really grateful that today at work I got to have a conversation with one of my work friends and blah, blah. It can be so small. Also, it's really important when you're being grateful for things not to have it be a jab at anyone. So you can't say I'm really grateful Sally wasn't at work today. So the second thing was just to be aware of how much you're complaining and what you keep hearing yourself say about your job. If you keep hearing yourself say that you hate it, then no shit, you're going to hate your job. The third one is to take this opportunity to really focus on your habits and your lifestyle, because they are not going to magically change when you get a new job. And I highly recommend, if you don't know where to start, starting with a morning routine. And the last two, to come up with some kind of side project that you can focus on, whether that's starting your own blog or YouTube channel or something like that, or you're painting, or you're learning a language, just something that you can focus your energy on and get that sense of accomplishment and pride is really, really helpful when you're not getting that from work. And the final one is to start having to think about what you actually do want. I don't recommend following your passion. I do recommend thinking about what you're curious about and the things that you do in your spare time. And even if that's watching Netflix, like what kind of things are you watching on Netflix? Why do you like it? Like, what fascinates you about it? I think the things we're curious about and the things that we find really fascinating don't usually scream at us. We have to kind of pay attention to what we really find enjoyable. Maybe it's fashion, maybe it's finance. I don't know, like I personally love crunching numbers, and if I wasn't doing this, I would definitely be in the financial world, and I have a finance degree. But anyway, there's so many different things we can be interested in, and I think when we get told to follow your passion, it can just seem like, there can only be one passion and we have to figure out what it is and then suddenly get a job in it and have a perfect career. And I think just having to think about what you're curious about, I don't know how to say it. Curious about. That's what I'm trying to say. So they're my tips if you are hating on your day job, and I hope you found them helpful. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I post multiple videos every single week, just stuff that, like, if you're in your 20s that you're going to have to deal with. And also make sure you join my Smart 20s community Facebook group that I mentioned earlier. All the links, as always, will be in the description box. That's it. I will see you in my next video. I got this mug this morning from Kmart, and it's like the cutest thing, and it was $1.50. I can't get over that. It was the last one left. Like, they had a mint color and a grey one, but like this was by far the cutest, and I love Kmart.